Hey there everybody, it's Mike Delisio, and today I'm going to be reviewing Santorini, Riddle of the Sphinx. This is an expansion to Santorini that allows you to play the game cooperatively or solo, and it's going to allow you to play through a series of different puzzles, scenarios, moving through a map book and trying to kind of expand, give yourself more tools to deal with increasingly more difficult puzzles. I'm going to head over to the table here. I'll show you kind of the basics of how the game is played without talking about everything, because this is one of those games where more is going to be revealed the more you play, but giving you an idea on how to play it. Then we'll come back here and I'll let you know what I think. All right, here you see Santorini, Riddle of the Sphinx, partially set up for the first riddle, the lighthouse. And I'm showing you this because it's really not giving you a whole lot of spoilers. This is very, very early on. The game is played out on a number of pages in this map book that are going to add all kinds of new types of things, but you're seeing something from very, very early on. This is really introducing a third action. You know, the tutorial shows you how to move, then build, and then select a god, and this adds in the Sphinx game. But the general idea behind this is that each of these different riddles are going to give you some things that you might need to know for that particular one. So this one is telling you that if to set the game up, you decide if you're playing a normal or expert game and then choose your stockpile accordingly. I would go with normal difficulty, so I would get 2 of those. And then to set these pieces up as they're shown on the map. So we've got 3 base pieces we're going to place there. I place out, I'm going to be playing a solo game. Place out 2 of the white workers and 2 of the blue workers. It doesn't matter which ones. And then these objective tokens are going to go on the associated spot. So this is a 2-level silver objective token, which is what it shows on the map there. So I'm going to go ahead and place that there and place that there. Also, I drew a random 5 random god cards from the blue kind of the starter beginning type here. You can see that number 9 in the upper right there for Morpheus. That shows that it's one of the starting god cards. I just drew 5 randomly and then put out the 3. I set up the 3 pieces for the Sphinx game there. And now I look at my solo gameplay card, and this gives me a little bit more. It tells me to set up the 2 in the blue and white workers, and then to flip this over, it kind of tells me how to play the solo game. I've got this little wanderer figure that's going to be used to track what move I'm doing so that I don't take an illegal action. Essentially in this game, what you are trying to do is you are trying to fulfill 1 or more objectives. You'll always ever only need 1 objective to be fulfilled. In this case, you only need to fulfill the silver objective, which is to get those 4 pieces into those 4 spots. If you do that, you immediately successfully complete this riddle. However, you can go for greater and greater rewards depending upon the different setup for that particular riddle. But in this case, you only need to do this. You can get gold, heroic, or godlike. However, with godlike, you'd have to change the setup rules, so we won't even be attempting that. All right, on your turn, you're going to do 1 of 3 actions, at least in this point. I don't want to spoil anything for later. You move, then build, which is what you're going to be doing most often. You select a god from the queue, and then will gain something accordingly. Or you can play the Sphinx game by rolling the die, and something will happen there. So what you're trying to do is collect these tokens, all right? And so the first thing that I might want to do is, let's say, for example, I want to move, then build with my blue worker. So I put the wanderer there. I move this 1 space, and then I build in any space that's adjacent to me. If I built there, I would have to have a 2nd level piece to do so. I don't. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this piece right here. It has now been achieved because this needed a level 1 block there. That's done. I put that right there. To be able to get this one, I'm going to be able to need to build the 2nd as well. Okay, so my first action was with a blue worker to move and then build. To be able to get this objective token, I'm going to need to be able to build a 2nd level. Well, in my stockpile right now, I only have 1 base level. I don't have any 2nd level. So one thing I could do is play the Sphinx game. And in this case, what you do is you're going to roll the dice, and depending upon what color comes up, you're going to be able to get the associated reward. In this case, at the beginning of this puzzle, anything that I roll is going to give me a piece of my choice that I can put into my stockpile. So I would likely go ahead and do that second one. So let's do this. Let's play the Sphinx game. So I move the Wanderer there to show that that's what I'm doing. I rolled purple. Purple is right here. And so now I remove this. It shows that I get any piece of my choice to the stockpile. I'll go ahead and add that right there. And now the next time I play the Sphinx game, if I roll either red or purple, a negative thing is going to happen. So I don't want that to happen. I'd have to remove one of my workers. So that's no good. So another thing I can do is I can select a god. That's the third thing I can do. I can look at any of these gods out here, and they're going to come with some type of a piece that you add to their card that you can use when you take the god's power. So let's say, for example, I went ahead and I selected a god and I chose Artemis here. This is saying instead of a normal move, you can move 2 spaces, but not back to the space where you started. But it also comes with a level 2 block there. All right. So once that comes out, I take a level 2 and I put it on that god card. All right, let's say that I move the white worker this time and build. I go here and I build right here. Now this is going to go on top of it, but it is not complete yet because it's still only a level 1. Now on my next turn, I can move the blue worker, do a move then build, move them there, build this out of the supply that I had, and now that has been completed. The level 2 block has been built there, and we can put that right there. Okay? And you're going to continue to do this, trying to fulfill all of the requirements of the necessary objective. In this case, get all 4 of those silver objective tokens. And you can see here, you'll need to be able to build a 3-level and a complete with a dome to be able to get that last one. If you collect the final coin, which these are coins, with at least 1 block or dome left in the stockpile or on your god cards, you're actually going to complete the gold objective. And if you acquire silver and gold objectives with at least 1 unclaimed god card in the queue, then you achieve heroic status and you get even more benefits. What are some of those benefits? Well, after you complete successfully a riddle, you're going to be going to the adventure map. All right. And the adventure map is going to be where you are kind of keeping track of your progress along this whole kind of scenario here. So we are right here in Paradise Isles with the lighthouse, and you would mark off which objectives you completed. So silver, gold, heroic, godlike. And so again, godlike would have to be something you do in the tutorial, or not in the tutorial, sorry, in the setup. And then you would eventually also be able to use some of the objectives to unlock other gods that would be added to your god deck and give you more powers, more abilities, more things along those lines. There's a lot more going on here as you move through the map book, move through the scenarios, things get more and more complicated. You start adding the blessing deck in there, you start adding in other pieces, like you can see here, some bridge pieces that are going to come into play relatively quickly. And I don't want to give away all that much beyond that. You get a general idea on how the game plays, and it's really the same with multiplayer cooperative as it is with solo. Not really any fundamental differences. All right, that in mind, let's head back and I will let you know what I think. All right, well, there you have it. That was just kind of a quick look at the lighthouse puzzle for Riddle of the Sphinx. And that, I think, gives you enough of an idea on the core mechanisms of the game to give you an idea of what things might progress. I don't want to talk anything beyond just the basics of the game, because this is something that if you're interested in and you're going to be playing it, I'd like you to be able to explore that on your own. But you get enough just from that initial puzzle, I think, to understand whether you're going to enjoy this version of Santorini. And so that's the first thing that I want to point out, is that This is not a standalone, okay? You need to have Santorini, pieces from Santorini, to be able to play this. But they are two very different games, and that may seem a little bit strange at first blush because they're both puzzle games, right? To an extent. Base Santorini is an abstract game where you are going to be using positioning and god powers, just like you are in Riddle of the Sphinx, but things are a little bit more open-ended, okay? You've got, it's a competitive game where you really are trying to either win yourself or shut your opponent out, put them in an untenable position where they're basically locked out and cannot win, right? That's a very specific type of experience, all right? And Riddle of the Sphinx is the opposite of that. This is a cooperative experience. And so I think it was a bold move by publisher and designer to go this route, to say, hey, you really enjoyed Santorini, this competitive game, very competitive game, where it's, you know, all or nothing. And here's a way that you can play this in a cooperative manner where everyone's going to need to kind of put their minds together to be able to solve a series of pre-designed puzzles, all right? And that's going to appeal to some, it's not going to appeal to others. Just by what little you saw in the overview, I think you get an idea of how this game is going to work. You're going to have very specific objectives that you need to reach. To be able to complete this, you have to do these things. The variability within that is going to be within perhaps the god powers that may come up because those are randomized, but the placement of the pieces and things along those lines, those are not randomized, those are there. This is how this particular puzzle is set up. Solve this puzzle. Solve this discrete puzzle using these things at your disposal. Some of them are going to have some randomized element, like I said, but for the most part, you really know what you need to do. This very specific puzzle, can you solve it? And beyond that, can you solve it in such a way that you are going to be able to get even more bonuses by, you know, completing more difficult objectives? But you'll only ever have to complete one specific objective to successfully finish that puzzle. Now, could you go back later after you've played a puzzle and maybe only gotten the silver objective and try to get greater objectives? Absolutely, you could, and you may even want to do that. But really, you're going to be doing something very specific each time you face a particular puzzle. How does that work for you? That's going to determine how much you like it. All right, so I'm obviously going to be talking about how that works for me. And it works tremendously. I like base Santorini a lot. It's one of the abstract games that has worked well for me over the years. I've played it with my kids. I've played it with other game groups. I tend to play it one-on-one. That's the way I feel like it is at its best. And I've always enjoyed it. It has kind of lost its placement in my gaming to other abstracts. Other abstracts have come along and maybe have kind of drawn my attention, and so I don't play Santorini very often anymore. But what this has done, what Riddle of the Sphinx has done, is reminded me why I liked Santorini and given me a whole new way to play it that is even more to my tastes, right? Being somebody that likes puzzle games, being somebody that likes solo games. You can also play this cooperatively, and it works very well as a cooperative game as well. But it allows me to kind of re-immerse myself into this world, still keeping some of the same fundamentals of how you move and build, and still having to face some of the same type of decision making that you did in base Santorini, but adding new elements on top of that. Add to that the fact that you are kind of going off on branching paths of unlocking different things, getting different gods, and it really is a game that works very well for me personally. I enjoy the puzzles. I feel like the puzzles are suitably challenging, but rarely feeling impossible. And I do like that there are ways that you can kind of, again, just go for the basic. If this is a particularly difficult puzzle for you, just do what you need to do to move on, and maybe come back later if you want to try to ace it, so to speak, or go for the gold would be more accurate, I suppose, in this game. So it really works for me as a series of linked puzzles that will allow me to kind of unlock different things. I really find it satisfying. Components I want to mention a little bit, because what you saw in the overview was some deluxe components. So like these kind of acrylic coins would have been cardboard. They're great. The cardboard's great too, all right? Just understand that no element of the production is poor. I like having the extra little blingy things, the acrylic pieces, but what you get with just the standard edition of this is of perfectly high quality. I love the spiral bound map book. I like the magnetic closure. It is an non-standard box size. That may be bothersome to you. To me, I'll trade that to have the spiral bound map book. And a nice little storage solution as well. That may be, your mileage may vary on that, but for me, I'll take the odd box size in this particular instance. So, really good production, a puzzle that I find very satisfying. I really like moving through the different scenarios and kind of unlocking different things, facing new challenges. So for me, this game is outstanding. I'm giving it an 8.5, a seal of excellence. And I think that this is a game that if you did not like Santorini, you may still like this. And if you did like Santorini, you may not like this. So I really think that it behooves you to kind of look into whether this style of game suits you. I'm lucky in the sense that I like them both. I do prefer the cooperative edition. If I had to compare them, I do prefer this to just the base Santorini, but I like them both. I really, really like the puzzle element, and the fact that I can play this solo is a benefit for me as well. All right, well, that's going to do it for me. This is Mike DeLisio, and I will catch you on the next one.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.